Hello, you beautiful ladies and gentlemen. As I, Fonz, the Falco, part of Review and Preview, host of Four Corners. Thank you so much for just taking a few short minutes to check out this video. Now, first, I want to give a shout out to Tom Scavetta, Kyle Russo, and everybody else who was a part of the NFL Draft Series here at Review and Preview. We did a live show of night 1 and night 2 over 5+ hours of the whole entire first 2 days of the draft. Incredible stuff. I was part of day 2, but shout out to Tom and Kyle for playing it all out. They've done an excellent job with everything, so definitely check it out. Rewatch it if you haven't already. Just check out our live reactions for all the picks, including Wan'Dale Robinson. That's a shout out to Tom and Kyle there. Sorry, I just think it's a really funny draft pick. But regardless, this video, we're going to talk about some notable day 3 selections and kind of recap the draft as a whole. Talk about some notable undrafted players that were signed by some teams and my draft winners and losers. But first, I got to give some interesting stats about the draft. My Miami Hurricanes, my favorite college football team, only one player was selected in the 7th round. A lot of notable undrafted guys I'm going to mention here for the Miami Hurricanes. It's been a weird ride for them. In the early 2000s, they had many guys going the 1st and 2nd round to now going into only the 7th round. But let's see if the Miami Hurricanes can revive themselves with Mario Cristobal. And on top of that, no Texas Longhorn was selected in the 2022 NFL draft, which is very weird to think about. 2 powerhouses in all of college football not being selected. Very, very only one combined with those 2 schools, but I digress. Let's get into some notable day 3 selections. Now, I have them listed on down below here. Look at some of the quarterbacks here. Bailey Zapp from Western Kentucky was a prolific passer there. Was drafted in the 4th round by the New England Patriots. Very interesting considering that Mac Jones was taken in the 1st round the year prior. The Patriots have a weird history of drafting quarterbacks in random rounds, and they end up kind of just like not playing them or in the backup role. So it'll be interesting to see what Bailey Zapp does. Remember, he has the record for most passing yards in college football history, or is definitely up there if I'm not mistaken. But it was interesting to see the Patriots draft a quarterback in round 4 when they had other positions of need. Another interesting selection for the quarterback spot was Sam Howell from UNC in the 5th round by the Commanders. Is it Carson Wentz's replacement down the line? Who knows? The quarterback class was a little bit, not as great as some other ones in years past. Interesting to see how will be taken in the 5th round after guys like Matt Corral and Malik Willis, and even to the Commanders too. Again, they had other needs, so it's interesting to see them use a 5th round pick on Howell. Maybe he will develop into a star down the line, a reliable backup. Who knows? Maybe just a little bit of a gamble for now the Washington Commanders. Now let's look at some running backs. Dameon Pierce from Florida, a guy who I was really high on. We drafted in the 4th round by the Houston Texans. I like this move a lot for the Texans. They definitely need some help at the running back slot. They were going through all different types of players, from Phillip Lindsay to Mark Ingram. So I think Pierce, a really good speed back pass catcher out of the backfield. I think the Texans have a good selection in the 4th round, a team that needed all sorts of help all over on the offense, defense, and even special teams. But Pierce is a good selection for the Texans. And this one's a shout out to Tom Scavetta. Kyron Williams was drafted in the 6th round by the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams didn't have a lot of draft picks this year. When you look at their roster, the main thing I would kind of say they needed help with maybe is the running back slot. Cam Akers is coming back now from his Achilles injury, and Sony Michel was a little bit up and down here too. So Kyron Williams was actually a very good back for Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. I think it was a very underrated heading into the 2022 NFL draft, but the Rams choose one of their few picks to select him. Shows a lot that they're interested in him, and maybe he'll be the lead back. Maybe he has a lot to prove though in the 6th round, but I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with Kyron. Some other little players here too. Calvin Austin from Memphis, the speedy receiver, selected in the 4th round by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I was a Ravens fan. I hate to see this, but I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have a history of drafting very good wide receivers in all sorts of the rounds from 1st to the 7th round. So Austin definitely will be a good spot there too. Put him in with George Pickens and, like Chase Claypool now. So it'll be a good wide receiver trio for now the new Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph, whoever the quarterback will be for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, more on this team later, but I love what the Ravens did in the 4th round with getting Isaiah Likely, tight end from Coastal Carolina. He's more of a big-bodied wide receiver. Will definitely be lined up outside of the typical tight end spot too. They needed help with Mark Andrews is definitely a very good tight end, don't get me wrong, but it's always going to have a nice, reliable backup, and likely will definitely be getting a lot of snaps early on, I believe, too, in 2 wide receiver sets. You put him out in the wide out spot, too. Big wide receiver from a small school like Coastal Carolina. The Ravens can sometimes find some hidden gems here and there, and I like this pick a lot. Cade Otton from Washington was also drafted in the 4th round by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They lost O.J. Howard, so they kind of found a replacement for him too, and we don't know if Gronk is coming back or not, but they can develop him nicely into a solid starting tight end. I like this move a lot for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And lastly, to another notable defensive player, Kobe Bryant. Yes, Kobe Bryant, opposite of Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati, was drafted in the 4th round by the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I'm born the Seahawks later on. I wasn't overall a fan of their draft selections, period, but Kobe Bryant was one of the few bright spots, I'd say. Definitely want to help revive the defensive backfield, I would say. So getting Bryant here, opposite of Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner got a lot of attention, but I think Bryant also should get some recognition here. Definitely will help him out. Probably will be maybe inserted into the starting line from day one. Maybe we'll see. But I think the Bryant selection, I do like it a lot. Definitely an underrated corner to look into. So look at some notable undrafted names here. You're going to see a lot of Miami guys. First, I got to talk about them. Bubba Bolden, the safety from Miami, signed with the Seattle Seahawks. I was kind of shocked that he wasn't drafted. I figured he'd get in like the 4th or 5th round. I know the safety class was actually pretty solid, but Bolden was a very good tackler. Can go from end to end, really fast, big safety. Excuse me. I think Seattle definitely got a good gem here in the undrafted free agent period. I definitely think he has a chance to make a roster. Probably have to play some special teams first, but I think Bo Bolden is a guy everyone should keep an eye on for Seattle. And yes, I was very high on De'Ara King for Miami from Houston, transferred over to the Miami Hurricanes, had a pretty good first season, and when he transferred in his second season, not so much a lot of injuries. They wanted to go a more younger route. He signed with the New England Patriots, so it's very interesting to see. I don't know if they're going to keep him at quarterback, obviously, but maybe they'll move him to receiver or something. Maybe just to see what they have in him, be a good kick returner or something. He has the speed. He can pass too. I think it'll be a long shot to make the Patriots roster, but if he proves himself a lot to everybody, he might make an NFL roster down the line. This one was a little bit of a shocker. Carson Strong from Nevada went undrafted, unlike guys like Howell, Brock Purdy, who was Mr. Irrelevant. Signed with the Philadelphia Eagles from Nevada. Really good passer, solid passer. I thought he'd go in like the 5th, 6th, 7th round. But interesting to see that he went undrafted here. The Eagles are an interesting spot here. I mean, they have Jalen Hurts and they have Gardner Minshew. So maybe, they want to have Strong, maybe can battle for the 3rd quarterback spot if they want to keep 3 quarterbacks. But if he develops well, they'll put him on the practice squad or something too. I'm interested to see what Strong does. I was shocked he wasn't selected. But hey, maybe goes to an interesting situation in Philadelphia as an undrafted free agent. We'll see what happens. Another interesting name, Charleston Rambo, another Miami Hurricane guy. Yes, I have to mention the Miami Hurricanes here. Charleston Rambo, former Oklahoma Sooner, transferred to the Miami Hurricanes for his final season time with the Carolina Panthers. Now, I expected Rambo to go undrafted, maybe 7th round, if anything. He's a solid receiver. The Panthers do need some help at wide receiver outside of DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Who knows if he's going to still be on the roster if they trade him or whatever. Maybe he has a chance to prove himself. I'm interested to see where Rambo goes. And there's another guy you should definitely keep an eye on. Justin Ross from Clemson would have definitely been drafted, I believe, if it wasn't for like the concerns over his neck and spine injury. He had surgery to repair them. He's a solid speed receiver. The Kansas City Chiefs signed him to an undrafted rookie deal. I think he has a very good shot to make the roster if he's healthy. I was very shocked. I mean, I'm not shocked. Maybe in the later rounds take a gamble on him, but I mean, teams did get scared off because of the injury to the spine and neck area. So I do understand it, but I think he'll prove a lot of people wrong here. So I think he definitely has a shot to make the Chiefs roster. We'll see what happens. Jojo Domin from Nebraska, linebacker, some of the Indianapolis Colts. Very solid linebacker from Nebraska. I'm surprised he wasn't drafted. That's another guy you should keep an eye on too. The linebacker class was very good this year. And I think the Colts, is a good landing spot for him too. He has a chance to make the roster, probably as a special teamer mainly. And if he does well, maybe he'll earn some reps on the defensive side of the ball. And lastly, Kevin Austin Jr. from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish again. Shout out to Tom Scavetta here from Review and Preview. Signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Another solid receiver for Jacksonville. I think he can develop really nice. He might have to play some special teams first to earn his name on the roster. But again, it's another receiver you should keep an eye on. Now let's take a look at some draft winners here. The first one, I got to mention it. My Baltimore Ravens, Ozzie Newsome, Eric DeCosta, John Harbaugh, the whole deal. I trust them all. I thank them for so much. Getting Kyle Hamilton at 14th overall, where he could have been as high as maybe 2 in some mock drafts. Very good receiver. Pair him up with Marcus Williams. I'm a huge fan of it. And also Tyler Linderbaum at the 25th pick. I wanted him originally at 14 to help the offensive line troubles, but the fact we were able to trade Marquise Brown for the 23rd pick and then trade to the Bills down to 25 and still get the top center. 2 very, very good first-round picks to help on both sides of the ball. And David Ojaba, who was a first-round grade if he didn't tear his Achilles on his pro day, getting him in the 2nd round, outside linebacker, pass rusher. It's a great story. He was so hyped when he got drafted. I'm definitely rooting for him. I think he's going to do really good with the Ravens. The Ravens somehow always find these guys. And these other guys I mentioned, like Isaiah Likely, Travis Jones from UConn, Daniel Filelli, offensive tackle from Minnesota. Let's see, Tyler Batty here, who was the SEC all-time, or was the leading rusher for the SEC for this past season from Missouri in the 6th round. A lot of solid players here. And Jordan Stout, for a punter, from Penn State. Interesting because Sam Cook is in the final year of his deal, and he's up there in age, going to be turning 35, I believe. So I think they want to kind of develop a punter for the future. Again, punters are people too. But overall, the Ravens draft absolutely nailed it. And is it weird to say the New York Jets also nailed the draft? I mean, to get the best corner, I believe, over Derek Stingley and Sauce Gardner, getting the best receiver, in my opinion, Garrett Wilson, in the top 10 selections. Very good. Jermaine Johnson, I feel like did not get not a lot of love. I had him a lot higher in my mocks. Get him at 26 overall to help out the pass rushing spot. Very good. Also getting Breece Hall in the second round. You saw after Michael Carter's injury, they needed help at the running back spot to get some depth. Michael Carter and Breece Hall is going to be a deadly running back duo for years to come, so definitely keep an eye out. Also, too, in the third round, Jeremy Rucker, Long Island's own. Shout out to Long Island there. At the tight end spot from Ohio State. Need help at the tight end spot, too, and I think getting Rucker there is very good to definitely contribute from day one. Overall, the Jets draft was very good. You got to give credit to the Detroit Lions. Man Campbell. My favorite coach, second favorite coach behind John Harbaugh, getting Aiden Hutchinson somehow flips them at the second overall spot was very good. Jameson Williams, if not for the torn ACL, would have went a lot higher, but getting him at 12 overall was really good too. I also love the Josh Pascal selection, the second round from Kentucky. I think he's going to be a really solid player, and they got a lot of help with the linebackers by getting Malcolm Rodriguez and James Houston in the sixth round. Can provide some depth there too. James Mitchell from Virginia Tech, who I was very high on also. The Lions draft, they were building a lot of defensive guys. Two offensive guys, obviously, with Jameson Williams and James Mitchell. Those are two solid selections. Overall, the Lions draft was very good. And lastly, before we get out here, we'll mention some draft losers here. I did not understand the New England Patriots draft. Getting Cole Strange from Chattanooga, no pun intended, was a strange pick. Loser game show 7 here, which is very, very odd selection. I need help at the guard spot. There were other options there, and they could have went somewhere else, maybe on the defensive and cornerback spot too. Tyquan Thornton is not a bad receiver selection in the second round, but again, there was other needs too. And drafting two running backs in Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris, I like those two running backs, don't get me wrong. But when you have like James White, J.J. Taylor, Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris, you have a lot of other running backs and a lot of other needs. It just didn't make sense to me. And also had the fact that Bailey Zappa in the fourth round, a quarterback, when you already kind of have your quarterback with Mac Jones. I just didn't get the Patriots draft, but then again, this could be a cold take a year from now when they win the Super Bowl because that's how Bill Belichick does things, so who knows. Now, another loser, I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears. Again, they didn't have a first-round selection, but I feel like there was a lot of needs they could have went with, and they really didn't fit them all right away. I like Kyler Gordon, don't get me wrong, but I think when you had Andrew Booth still on the board, you could have definitely went with him over Gordon. Velus Jones, who's going to be 25, they needed help at the wide receiver spot, and the wide receiver class was deep. And your only one you got was from Tennessee, who's going to be turning 25 when there's a bunch of other ones that were still on the board. It just overall didn't make sense to me. And there's not a lot of notable selections here that kind of were eye-popping. They're like, yes, this is perfect picks. There's nothing really screamed to me like, this is it. This is the guy that needed to get for the Chicago Bears. And lastly, I talked about him before because I like the Kobe Bryant selection in the fourth round, but Seattle Seahawks selections a little bit questionable to me. I like the Charles Cross selection at 9 overall. Don't get me wrong. But getting Kenneth Walker at the running back spot at 2, I just didn't get it when they had a bunch of other guys. DJ Dallas, Travis Homer, Chris Carson. They just brought back Rashad Penny. There's a lot of other needs there. Just didn't make sense to me. And you need some help at the wide receiver spot, and you wait till the 7th round to get Bo Melton and Derek Young. I feel you could have took the spot with the Kenneth Walker or maybe somewhere in the 3rd round to get another receiver. Again, the draft here just didn't make too much sense to me. The Seattle Seahawks, I would say, are one of the losers of this draft. So there you have it. There's my draft recap from day 3. Some notable selections, some draft winners and losers. Who do you think won the overall NFL draft? Who lost it? What were some notable names that you liked? Who's an undrafted guy that I should keep an eye on, that everyone else should keep an eye on too? As always, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Remember to follow, review, and preview here on YouTube and everywhere else, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Check out our podcast review and preview where all the shows that are lined up. We have a TikTok page. Definitely check that out if you haven't. Follow everything with review and preview, the brand down below. This is Fonz DeFalco signing out. Thank you guys. I'll catch you guys wherever on review and preview.